Immortal Mask, a 1970s superhero crime noir adventure, follows a retired soldier turned reporter who is given a coveted interview with a death row inmate. What he learns thrusts him into Atlanta's shadowy underworld. He'll have to use his military training to survive being hunted for possessing the information that could topple the city's most powerful ruling class. This is not a pre-order or a crowdfunding campaign. Get your books now at denali's.com.
On a catwalk, Teresa struts her stuff, but the fame and attention just isn't enough. When the darkness descends, turning day to night, she takes to the skies with a blinding light. She's a sight to behold, sexy and powerful, brazen and bold. She's turning up for the fight, rooting out evil and shining so bright. Electric bolts from a stormy sky, leather wings of a dragon's flight. A psychic sword cuts through the night, a fiery heart standing ready to fight. Southern Knights, they rise and soar. God in the south, yeah, they're ready to roar. From the shadows to the shining lights, that they'll protect you day and night. Southern Knights.
And good evening. It is me, RJ Carter, Senior Managing Editor here at CriticalBlast.com, Chief Envelope Licker for Critical Blast Logistics, myopic proofreader for Critical Blast Publishing. And yes, I will on rare occasions help you with your crowdfunder data by putting my 35 years of data science experience to the test and helping you clean it up with data consulting. Don't ask me to speak about it because I can't. I trip over my tongue. Tonight, you've seen the ads for this for a long time. It feels like it's been years in the making, 3 at least. But it's really been a couple of just very, very intense months for us here to bring to you the huge collection that's now available, Southern Knights. You remember the series from the 80s, from these people. And let's just bring them on. We've got Henry Vogel, David Willis, and Jennifer Bushcraft. Come on, click, click, click. How you guys doing?
Hi.
Hey.
So I feel like it's meeting time again. This team meeting time. This is we're live and we're talking, and everyone else can watch.
Wait, the book's actually out there, so we don't have anything else to decide.
It is. Well, let's hope not. Although we kind of do, but we can talk about that later.
True.
Because there's so much to do. But Southern Knights, for those who haven't heard of the #1 super team of the South, who are they? How did they come to be? And why are they still so popular 40 years later? Who wants to take it?
Oh, wait, you want us to answer that question? Me or you, David?
Well, you can start, and I'll embellish as need be.
Feel free to interrupt
Everybody
anytime.
can talk over each other. That's how these things go, right?
Right. Okay, so a very long time ago, specifically mid-August 1981, and I'm actually talking about how David and I met, but that's absolutely instrumental in the creation of the Southern Knights. So we were both enrolled at Clemson University. David there as a freshman, not quite 18 yet. He was just 17. And I was 2 months shy of getting married. I was 24. So I was incredibly old to David at the time. Now, of course, there are people we would kill to be able to go back to those ages. So during registration, this is South Carolina. It's August. It's hot. I was trudging across this sort of crosswalk bridge that passed in front of the library. Went up some stairs. There's a kiosk. You may remember those things where you would use tape to post notices that were photocopied and had phone numbers. They had a whole bunch of phone numbers, and somebody would cut and you'd tear a phone number off because
I remember those.
Yes, exactly. This was called social media, or at least this passed for social media in 1981. I don't know exactly what caught my eye, but I came up off of this bridge passing in front of the library and went up some stairs, and there was one of those kiosks there because everybody tended to pass by that area, and something caught my eye, and it was this ad, this notice that this guy named David Willis was going to try to form a comic book club. And it had his little phone numbers down there, and nobody had torn one off yet, but I did. And I called him up, and the comic book club eventually did come into being, got to be an officially recognized club, and it lasted exactly as long as David and I were willing to keep it alive, which means it made it about to the end of the spring semester. We were in fall semester then, so about to the end of the spring semester, and then David and I went off and started co-publishing the Southern Knights, and we didn't have time to keep the comic book club alive, so it died. But it was through the comic book club that, first of all, of course, we met, and second, that the idea of publishing a comic book originally as a club plan, and David and I both think we came up with that idea, and he was the one who formed the club, so I'm willing to defer and let him have the credit for it. But originally it was going to be a club thing, and I had sort of come up with the Southern Knights across several months, although they weren't called that at the time. They had no name at the time. And I told David about it. He's like, wow, that sounds really cool. I like that a lot. And I said, yeah, I really do too. And I like it way too much to let the club have it. Yep. So David was like, yeah, I can see that. So if you were looking for were you looking for how the team came into existence?
Sure. Well, the book, the team, all of it, because like Southern Knights, or, if you're going to be an absolute purist, you can call them Crusaders. Just don't say it around any trademark lawyers.
Yeah. Well, actually, I think we could be safe with that now, because I'm pretty sure that whatever the comic group was, that Archie group or whatever, I'm pretty sure they're dead.
Yeah, you never know. The lawyers are still alive, though.
DC licensed it for a while, so they'll make a claim.
Good enough. Yeah, but I understand trademark law a whole lot more than I used to. So I also know that if you're not trading under the mark, you don't get to keep the mark. Dennis Malinay of the Flair that you ran the ad for before, he prevailed against Marvel for the name Champions under that exact thing. He's like, yeah, you had the trademark and then you stopped publishing and you didn't maintain it, so I'm taking it. And Marvel said, no. And the court said, yes. So I don't really remember exactly where Electrode came from. I honestly think the guy who was best man in my wedding, Robert Reynolds, who's probably never going to hear this, but I think he made the first suggestion towards what became Electrode. And probably, I really don't know specifically where the name Electrode came from. Probably not me. I was not an electrical engineer, but Robert was. So I'm going to go ahead and say probably came from him. I
remember having a discussion, though, what to name him, and that we couldn't do Electro because of Marvel.
Right. We couldn't do Electro, Lightning Lad was right out, Electric Kid.
Got it around.
Yeah.
A lot of things.
And we had the while creating Electro, I also created the Legion of Superheroes version of the sidekick for him, Battery Lad, who would run along scuffing his feet on the carpet. And when Electrode ran low on electricity, he'd touch him and give him static electricity. And Battery Lad, alas, never saw. He did eventually show up in Southern Nights number 30 when we did our spoof versions of If the Southern Nights were done by the various comic book companies. So that's in the book we're promoting, by the way, guys. You should all go buy it.
Yes, I mean we've got and you can see the scroller down there at the bottom. Yes, that's not a mistype. 1,100 plus pages. This thing will kill an intruder if you hit them over the head with it when they come in your house.
If you can lift it.
If you can lift it.
Excuse me.
And I've books are ordered. Jay, I sent you the copy of the order. You're getting XDs with it,
darling.
Yeah. Okay. But I am on pins and needles waiting. And of course, we order this just at the time that the printer says, okay, holiday schedule. Everything is now 15 business days before you even print something. I'm like, oh, come on.
Yeah.
I have Amazon. Amazon has clout. I'm sure they get it faster.
But still get it in time for Christmas, though.
Yeah,
yes,
you will.
Exactly. And what a Christmas gift it will be. You actually use it to keep your tree up.
It'll look like a box and it won't make any noise when you shake it.
Well, it depends on how well you pack it. It could make a little noise, or it could just actually shift a little bit and the weight will carry it right out the edge of the package and then give away the gift right there. We don't know how much it weighs, people. We just figure 1,118 pages in a hardback, 8.5 by 11 is going to be a heavy book.
I just realized I can tell you how much it weighs.
Really?
Cool.
That's one of the useless pieces of information that they do give me on the print site. But one thing that, while I'm looking it up here, one thing about Southern Nights that I didn't notice it at the time, but I knew that it was something was different, is that Electrode's the only one who's a superhero as far as a costume and a change of appearance. Everyone else is just, their name.
I would like to say that Mark changes appearance fairly considerably, or actually Dragon changes appearance fairly considerably.
Yeah, but it's reversed, isn't it?
It is.
Yep.
It very much is. And we make fun of that right there in issue number 2, where David has gotten costumes brought in so that people can try to change into him. He doesn't try to put a costume on Dragon. That would have been kind of a waste.
And thanks to him would have sued.
Yes, but we've got Connie trying on costumes, and Kristen's like saying, "Nope, not that. Nope, not that. Nope, not that." And she eventually ends up with the costume you more or less see in the animation that you use there. But David's like, "Where's your costume, Kristen?" She's like, "You're looking at it," and she's wearing orange shorts and a Clemson t-shirt. So that we went right from the beginning. It's like, no, we're not going to do that. We're trying to be kind of traditional superheroes without being traditional superheroes.
And I do remember talking about names for Connie, superhero names, aliases, but never Kristen.
Right. And I think the thing is, we couldn't come up with a good superhero name for Connie.
Mm-hmm.
If I was going to be honest, I'd call her Psychic Tarna the Terrakian from the Heavy Metal movie.
Oh my gosh. That brings back memories.
Yeah, tell me about it. That movie had just come out, and
awesome movie.
We had seen it, and that was the Tarna. The last segment was my favorite segment by far of the movie. And yes, I'm sure.
That's why they saved it for last.
So I was thinking it would be really cool to, it's like, I like the idea of a swordswoman. That would be really cool, but you can't use a real sword because there were plenty of people in the Marvel and DC universe that carried swords, superheroes that did. And every single time they got into a fight, they used their sword to whack people with the flat of the blade. Why are you carrying a sword? And by the way, Jennifer, I had this discussion with Dak, and he wrote The Defenders, who had Valkyrie, who was one of those flat of the blade things. And I said, and I was like, this is stupid. Why do you carry a sword if you're not going to use it? And of course, it's because you don't want blood and guts. And he's like, yeah, I know. If I had stayed on the book, she was going to shift to a quarterstaff, but then he moved on to another book, and he didn't shift her to a quarterstaff, and neither did whoever came next.
They gave Wonder Woman a sword, and she used it.
See, that's okay. If you're going to use it, if you're going to carry a sharp implement, then you should use it. Which is why I channeled what I wrote. And I kind of misremembered it since I went back and reread them. But I had remembered Edgar Rice Burroughs had this group of many, yet another lost civilization on Mars, where they had vast mental powers, and they would create imaginary warriors who would fire bows that would always come and hit their opponents right in the chest. And the opponent would think, I'm supposed to be dead now, and they would die. And it would actually turn out to be all in their mind. And I thought, how about if it actually does something so she can slice them and use psychic powers to temporarily discombobble their nerves and make things stop working for a while. So we got all the advantages of a slice and dice sword, and none of the blood and guts.
None of the blood and guts. Okay. Well, her last name was Ronan, so I was like, the sword woman with the name of Ronan. I didn't know if that was going to be her superhero name or if it was just a happy coincidence of surnames.
It was because I was looking for names when I was writing the script, or the plot, I should say, for the first one. And I was looking around for names, and there was something. It might have been Rom Space Knight was fighting somebody named Ronan, or whatever. Or maybe there was a comic, but it was sitting there on my desk.
There was a comic by He Who Shall Not Be Named.
Okay,
that was well after.
But that came after, and that was called Ronan. But this was it was a name I pulled off a comic book or out of a comic book, and I was like, okay, I read Shogun. I know that a Ronin is so I'm going to give her an extra N, and then it's Ronin. Yeah, there you go. Hide it.
And by the way, her psychic blade predates Marvel's Psylocke character, which suddenly started using
considerably by quite a few years.
Yeah.
So yes,
I did look up the book, by the way, folks, and this is 6 1/4 pounds of dead tree.
That's a small baby.
Yeah, it's yes,
a small baby.
Wow.
It will put your arm to sleep if you hold it long enough. So the you had the team, and the other thing about the team, aside from the lack of really secret identities and costuming, despite marketing trying to put that on them, was that they were very diverse. Now, when I say they're very diverse, I mean, yeah, the Justice League is diverse. You got the water guy, you got the flying guy, you got the green energy guy, but they were all superheroes. Here you had a psychic, basically a samurai warrior, which is one kind of thing. And you got, the electrical superpower, and you got a dragon out of myth. And then you got a sorcerer out of ancient times. Like, whoa, were you pulling these out of Scrabble bags or what? How are you coming up with these characters and saying, this is a team, sardines and peanut butter and
the strong girl. Actually, so first of all, I'll give a very quick explanation of a couple of them. And then I'm going to turn it over to David, because David came up with the idea for Aramis.
Mm.
Please tell me you remember that, David.
Oh yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
So I don't have to tell that. So I was, and when I told this to Dennis Malinay, he loved this story. Dragon came about because I was sitting around fooling around with the original first edition Champions RPG, and I was randomly creating characters, and I rolled a power for it, and it was shape changing. And my first thought was, well, my new wife Audrey loves unicorns. Maybe he'll shape change into a unicorn or whatever. Then I thought, but I love dragons, and dragons are cooler than unicorns. They are. They can fly, and we need a way to move people around. You can ride a dragon without being a virgin.
Unicorns fly on rainbows. That trumps the dragon.
I think we'll have to take this fight up the next time we meet.
Yeah. I want rainbows are cool.
We like Jennifer, even if she is wrong.
I'm never wrong. I'm a woman.
Oh, okay. So anyway, the shape changer became somebody who it was like he changes into a dragon. No, wait. He's a dragon who changes into a man. That was basically where he came from. And Kristen came about because I wanted 4 members of the team. And every superhero team, I was trying to come up with something good, and I couldn't. I was like, I don't want to do the traditional strong man sort of thing, but every team always has a strong guy. So, well, okay, we'll have a strong person, but they're not going to be the big hulking dude, because they're always big, you know. Thor's big, you know, and Superman, all of them, they're all big. So, you know, we've got 5'2" Kristen, the petite blonde, and we made her our super strong person.
And bulletproof.
And bulletproof, yes. Yeah, we ran into somebody at a Heroes Con one time. It was like sitting there. It's like, why didn't she know she was bulletproof? I was like, I don't know. I could be bulletproof for all I know, but fortunately, I've never had to find out. You know, it's like, how often do you get shot? But you know, this is, I guess, one of those questions that you get used to getting when you go to conventions. But
he's a lot like Philip Wiley's Gladiator, a Superman, but you know, not with the flying, not with the laser visions, just strong and tough.
Right.
And brave.
And then Aramis did come in later. He's not one of the core members of the team.
Right.
Fifth member, 5th issue.
So the Knights had been in existence, at least in our minds, for a couple of years, probably at that point, I would say, Henry, even though only probably 3 issues were out. But I remember sitting in Annie, to play Annie at the local community theater with my parents and little sister, probably bored to tears, thinking about the Knights and thinking about what else we needed and thinking about the team and what did we not have. And the one thing we didn't have was magic. And so I thought, how can we bring magic into this? And thought of the idea of him being from the, what was it, 1800s or 1700s?
1700s.
Encapsulated somehow in a secret passage, secret room in the Hampton House where the Knights lived. And that's about it. And then brought it to Henry whenever I saw him next, probably that Monday after the weekend. And boom, it expanded and got refined. And he appeared in issue 5. Boom.
And
Dragon didn't have magic.
Go ahead.
And Dragon didn't have any magic despite being a dragon.
He can turn into a man. That's kind of
it is kind of magical, yes, but you know,
that's all we know.
Fire.
That's all we know.
That's kind of magical fire.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's it. You know, he's not a D&D dragon. He doesn't come with, you know, like 5 level 5 spells or something like that. He can't cast fireballs or hold person or anything like that. Yes, I play D&D, or at least variations.
I'm learning.
So the nice thing about issue 5 too is that's when Chuck Wojtkiewicz joined the team, And I think a lot of things really started to gel. The artworks really started to come together. The stories came together, and it was not long after that that we met David Anthony Kraft, who we referred to so far as Dak, and he kind of took the Knights really to the next level, I think. So we really hit our stride, I think, beginning with 5 and probably in the teens issues, we really hit our stride.
Yeah, by then we'd been around long enough that people would be like, all right, they're not going to like disappear tomorrow. Maybe it's okay to order books, and maybe it's okay to buy the book, that sort of thing. I'm guessing.
And you guys were doing all of this yourself.
Right. While in school, while trying to attain a degree.
Well, one of us did even. Not me.
Yeah.
I brought this up to Carl Kiesel a long time back, because he's doing some crowdfunding books. I was like, you've worked in the offices where you had to put a book out every single month. I'm like, why is it that the crowdfunding stuff takes 6, 7, 8 months between books? Sometimes years. And and the answer was, of course, well, I was just writing then, and now I'm having to do all of it, and I've got to work out soup to nuts. But you guys were doing this, and it was coming out on I'm not going to say monthly, but it was at least coming out quarterly.
Well, we were aiming for quarterly, and sometimes we even made that.
And the biggest slowdown was probably the artists. I mean, with the first issue, Butch broke his arm halfway through the issue, so that artwork got slowed dramatically, and then that also affected issue 2.
Not to mention he got hired by Marvel.
Well, yeah, Marvel. I mean, it's a hard decision.
Marvel, us. Yeah,
that's what you literally call a lucky break, I guess.
But
I will reach through and smack you.
Seriously, back to, and it's a good point, RJ. It came out kind of sporadically, probably through issue 8, and then when Dak got involved, it became much more regular, much more regulated, regimented. All those together
on time,
professional.
That would be
more professional. How about?
Yes. Although we still ran into issues with printers a couple of times, and with less artists than inkers, but sometimes, either one, that could throw things off. I mean, the very first issue.
It's always the artists.
That's right.
It's creatives.
It's never the fault of the writer. The writer is always correct and on time, even when he's not.
Which came first, Henry? Did Southern Knights come before or after our favorite Team of Thieves here? Did everybody just freeze up?
No, we're all thinking, I think.
No,
Well,
okay. Henry frozen up.
Okay. Did y'all hear me when I said that they came?
Nope.
Okay. I suddenly noticed. See, you guys didn't disappear, but I did. I'm. It's like, damn it, Aramis, stop that. The X Thieves came about. I think we started. It was probably fall of '86, and then the book came out, or maybe it was. Yeah, I think it was '86. Might have been '87. That was a long time ago. So that book came about because Mark Probst, who was drawing the Knights at the time, and I got together high atop Screamer Mountain in northeastern Georgia, Clayton, Georgia, high above Clayton, Georgia. And we were actually getting together to discuss Southern Knights, to plan out a bunch of issues for the Southern Knights. And I feel like I'm doing all the talking, by the way. So we really need to find questions that other people can answer.
We'll get there.
But I could finish that.
I know the answer to this one because I've heard this story, but I like to hear you tell it.
Okay.
Oh, I want to hear you tell it.
Okay.
No, I'm not going to tell it. But I do know it came about because of a piece of art.
It did. And boredom and perhaps lack of oxygen high atop southern, Screamer Mountain there. So I was sitting there. We were getting ready to start talking about things. We just finished lunch. We were all set. Phone rings. You remember those, when the phone wasn't in your pocket and you couldn't look and see who it was. You had to go answer the phone. So, Dak went to answer the phone, and it turned out to be a business associated call with the publishing stuff. And so he covers okay, I have to take this right now. It might take a little while. And yes, when Dak got on business phone calls, it usually took a while. In this case, I think it was
when Dak got on any phone call, it
could go that way. Yes.
Yeah.
Hour and a half, 2 hours, something like that.
And you're flipping through the art.
Well, Mark pulls out the artwork that he was working on for the next Southern Nights issue, and he starts inking and laying down Zipatone and doing this sort of stuff and that sort of stuff. And, I'm sitting there while watching artists work is, it's boringly interesting, or maybe interestingly boring. I'm not sure which, but it doesn't. This is why if you ever see somebody do a video about their artwork, it's all sped up so it takes shape real fast. Yeah, it doesn't happen that way in real life. So Mark's still, he's been working on the same panel for 10 minutes, and I'm like, oh look, Mark brought his art portfolio. Artists always carried a portfolio. It was like an actual carrying case. And I was like, that could waste entire minutes. So I opened up his portfolio to flip through that, and I got to this one piece of artwork that I don't know if you happen to have it to show, or if you want to or not.
I've got it stored safely away.
Okay. But it was it showed Fred, the alien from the cover that he held up a moment ago. Yes, Fred, the one on stage right. Yeah. And he was standing there. He had a cigarette holder and, like about that long, the kind of thing you used to see in movies. And Bianca was kneeling down next to him. And they were all sort of looking out and looked like they were kind of ready for whatever. And I looked at Mark and was like, hey, who are these guys? They look really interesting. And Mark looks up like, oh, I just drew them to show versatility. Don't say that to a writer.
Nope. That's a blank slate.
No, they have to have personalities. They have to be something. And the thing was, you might think it could have taken a while to get around to Thieves. No, I went right there. So not like I want thieves to break in and steal stuff from me, but I always loved heist movies.
Yes.
And heist stories, particularly when, it's like the good guy heist trying to do, or whatever. Anyway, I always liked heist movies and heist stories. So I decided that, they were high class, high end thieves, the kind that, slip in and take something and go out, and you wouldn't even realize they had been there until you went looking for something and realized that it's not where you left it. So it must be somewhere else, and it's not there, and it's not there. And your wife didn't put it in the cupboard or anything like that. And you eventually realize I've been thieved. I've been burgled, whatever it is you say.
Of course, it was the era of the three adjectives in a noun. So, not only have they been burgled, but they're miles away and years lost.
And the title is, I didn't work real hard on that title. I think that's pretty much the first title I suggested after Dak got off the phone, and we told him what we'd come up with so far, and he joined in on the fun. And I said, and we'll call them, and the parody titles like that had been a big thing. So I said, how about Aristocratic Extraterrestrial Time Traveling Thieves? And Dak's like, great, okay. And like 5 minutes later, we're like, and after a few issues, we'll change it to X Thieves. We're like, yes, that's great. Because
it was easier to say.
It's easier to say. It puts a big X up there, which was, this was the days of the X-Men. There's a good reason there's no E at the front of Extraterrestrial. So that was, we called them X Thieves almost from the beginning. But that's how the X Thieves came about.
Well, of course, the real reason why what this is important to me and Pops, I didn't miss a couple of destinations. I missed an entire time zone. Otherwise, I would have said, hey, Pops, I need a studio. I'd have been in your studio. We'd have been broadcasting to 7 or 8 or multiple different destinations. But no, I effed up. So it's all on me. But we'd been publishing books for a while, and I'd been after you for
years.
For years to bring in the Southern Nights. And there was another project you were talking about. I'm like, oh, I need to see this project. And it didn't come to pass. But then you said, I still have X Thieves. I'm like, of course, why can't we do X Thieves? And we did.
And I think that was both of us going like, why didn't we think of this 3 years ago?
And we should have, because it was really 3 years. I kept every 3 or 4 months. I'm like, any news on this project? Any news on this project? Any news? Are we there yet? Are we there yet? And then we did this, and it was pretty much when you saw the PDF shortly after, like a few days after we got the print files, you said, hold my beer, I need to make some calls. and Southern Nights became a thing, as did so many other books. But I will say that, discovering things in Mark's art portfolio is replaying itself, because I spent the last 3 days here scanning the last of the artwork. This time it's the X Thieves artwork. And for people who are X Thieves fans, who have picked up this book, and if you haven't, go get it. It's out there. There's more to come, because we found, stuff that hadn't been published yet, and not just fan art, not just pinups, but 2 completed pencils, right? So
we didn't. Jennifer did.
Jennifer did. Yeah, well,
she was being comic book archaeologist.
It's the we of osmosis.
Yeah, it's the royal we.
The royal we.
Yes, yes, Your Majesty.
So Jennifer, tell us.
She is the queen.
Yes. So Your Majesty, where were you keeping these things all this time?
Well, I have a couple of storage units. When David passed, about a year later, I went into the attic, and it was just crammed full of stuff. And I had no idea this stuff had been there. I found, crazy things. And I had started sorting, but it's when there's that much stuff that you're going through, I had started putting them in bins kind of by type. So I had Southern Nights and X Thieves in a big bin. And I had original art and photocopies. I was learning how to tell the difference. And when we started trying to get some stuff together, I remembered, I was like, oh, wait, I've got a big bin of some stuff. And I went sorting and looking, and I was like, oh, there's a lot more in here than I even remembered, because, you kind of it kind of all runs together. And I started, snapping pictures and sending it to David Henry. I was like, there are pencils in here. There's this thing and this thing. And they were like, oh my God, I forgot that was even made. And you've got this. And I was like, guys, there's like a lot of stuff in here. So then, and I
don't think we even got nearly all of it.
No, I stopped, because I was like, I finally just got tired. I was like, you guys can come down and just, look through it. Because again, I have a hard time telling what's photocopies, what's original. So it was, and then also I didn't know, I'm still catching up on everything David published and did so much, trying to read everything. I can't get to it all. And there's stuff that wasn't published. So, I didn't know how much of this was stuff that was going into the actual publication. So like the pencils we found, it's like, was that ever inked? No, I find out, no, that wasn't inked. That was never even published, so I would, I'm still like the novice, and, I'm like the little dog with the little legs trying to catch up. All the big dogs are running and I'm just like, just trying to go as fast as I can just to read all of this stuff, just to understand it. But that's kind of how I found it, was treasure hunting for these guys and for you all to put some stuff in there, and found some pretty cool stuff, I think.
Yeah, and that's going to be in that Southern Nights volume. A great deal. Well, everything that was Southern Nights is going to be in the Southern Nights volume. So it was about 20 pounds of artwork.
Literally.
It's the only way to quantify it. You can't just, I can't count the pages. I can only remember how much it weighed. It was
that includes, what was it, 11 penciled pages from Willie Peppers, who practically engraves the pencils on the paper.
Yeah.
There's none of this, I wonder what he's trying to draw there. You can tell, absolutely.
Willie Peppers is the lost twin of George Perez.
He's so gorgeous. I mean, I have other stuff that's not just Southern Nights. It's when you look at it, it's like it breathes. It's really gorgeous.
Yeah.
So all of this, your work means that we've done the complete X Thieves, and now we're going to have some new X Thieves material. We've done almost complete Southern Nights, and now we're going to have not just the extra Southern Nights stuff, which is going to come in the Morrigan Wars, which is our next project here, but new Southern Nights stuff, because we had penciled pages that were scanned, and Henry's like, oh yeah, let's finish that. I'm like, yes, Henry, let's finish that. It's something. It went something like that. I make it up as I go along.
And the pencil pages are in the omnibus, so everybody can get a sneak peek.
Yep, you can get a look at it. And anybody listening out there, when you get to page 10 of the pencils, if you can figure out what's going on in that page, let me know.
Yes,
I have no idea.
Right. Jennifer found the pencils.
I'm sorry, the what?
Jennifer found the pencils, but did not find the script or the plot.
No, but I have boxes and boxes of scripts. So that's one of my goals, is like just dig, it's that deep diving that, after a while I'm just like, I'm so tired.
It'll be harder to find because, I was doing what used to be called Marvel style writing.
Mm-hmm. I know.
And so I would write a plot, which was usually only 3 typed pages, maybe 4.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's going to be, it could disappear easily in and among a bunch of.
Well, not exactly, because David was weirdly meticulous about things. So there will be boxes labeled unused plots. There'll be and it will be separate from unused scripts. And then there'll be potential scripts, or they're in their own little beasts. So not
you say weirdly meticulous, I say meticulously weird.
He was both of those things.
Yes.
So now that I know it might have been a plot, that directs me into a different arena. It's like, okay,
those are in the green box.
That's in that one. That's in that area.
Everything I wrote for Dak was in. I wrote a plot,
mm-hmm.
Then I got pencils. Probably those pencils ended up with Dak, and he was going to photocopy them and send the
mm-hmm.
photocopies to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I would have scripted from those photocopies.
Mm-hmm.
But that was a situation where, the second black and white comics bust in 1989
mm-hmm.
had, it killed both books.
Mm-hmm.
And so the stuff that's there is stuff that had already been planned for, but we had not gotten around to finishing, and then everything went.
Well, you get to revisit all of it because, like I said, I finished scanning all the X Thieves extra artwork. George has finished stitching it together, and it should be out there in that shared drive that you all have access to take a look at. But while I'm scanning,
we are having a meeting.
We are having a meeting. Now it's official. This is a tax deduction if you spent anything getting here. It's now a work meeting. But in addition to the 48 pages of pencils, not counting all the pinup work and the pages that were there, the inked pages, the 48 pages of pencils total for 2 issues. There's the flip side, where I don't know what Mark was doing, but there were panels penciled for several pages of some superhero comic, team comic, and I did not recognize the characters, but I went ahead and I scanned them anyway. I'm like, pages for something. Someone will tell us what this is.
He did have a superhero team that he was working on, so that I might recognize it when I get a look. So we'll see.
We called them bonus pages so that they didn't get messed up with numbering. But yeah, all 48 pages are out there, ready to be, blessed and looked over and taken to the next step, because they were very light, loose pencils.
Okay, we have officially announced it.
So, yes.
Now we have to do it.
Now we have to do it, and we even gave it a title in a meeting once. I think we called it X Thieves Recovered Loot.
It all comes on me.
Yes,
I'm a
I love
writer. I have to write now.
Yeah. Well, apparently you already wrote it at one point.
Yeah.
And
Wasn't that enough, RJ? My goodness.
Once is enough. And Mark helpfully put notes in the margins of the things you had said and things.
Oh, thank God.
Those guys stand too. This. I feel like I work for a comic book company all of a sudden.
Really?
I was supposed to just collect checks and be done with it, but apparently there's actual work involved in here now. And I couldn't. I'm telling you, I could not be happier. I mean, I've been doing this for like 5 years now, publishing books, and it's like. And it has been just this. Okay, it's an anthology, it's an idea. Okay, editing. Good story. Publish, collect money, send money. But now he's like, wait, when did this get fun? We're dealing with stuff that I've been wanting all my life. If you'd have told me that, hey kid, when you grow up, when you graduate college here, that book there, you're going to be editing anthologies of it. I'm like, yeah, right. But here I am, because you're. X Thieves led to Southern Knights. Southern Knights led to Morgan Wars. Morgan Wars led to Flair Archives 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
And possibly other things.
And other things that I won't mention those things.
No, we cannot mention those things.
Until you tell me we can do those things. Won't. But I will say that all of that led me to working with there's this guy who wants to write. He's written a couple of comics. His name's Roy Thomas. Roy Thomas.
Yeah, I think I've heard of that guy.
Yeah, he's good. He's good.
Yeah, I think he could be. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
vaguely.
Yeah, I don't know why I have this feeling that he would be really good for Swords and Sorcery.
Yeah.
He would be. But he's done some superhero stuff that we're looking at. He did this Captain Thunder and Blue Bolt thing. So
great.
We're working on that. We're hoping that'll go somewhere. But it's just the floodgates have just opened. 2025 is going to be huge, because you know what most of 2025 is going to be is Southern Knights. because yes, we've made the great big book, but we've got all these spin-offs and offshoots, and it's going to be retooled and remarketed in different ways. And I'm not going to tell you how, because that would ruin the fun. Just stay tuned. What else is there? David, roll back the clock here. You, in college, decided you wanted to start a comic book club. I remember when I was in college, I started a Doctor Who club. It was my idea.
That's cool.
To the meeting. I was the only one there. The first meeting.
Well, my wife would have been there with you if she had known.
I would have been there.
I would have been there.
So how did you? What was the process between coming up with? Let's have a comic book club where we just sit around and read comics and call it a club.
Well, and we were in some other discussion once and realized that everybody else was a novice when it comes to comic books and comic book collecting versus me. I started reading Spider-Man when I was 5. So, and got comic books pretty much continuously from age 5. And was one of those that at one point I was probably getting 20 or 30 titles a month. And collection, I'm sitting looking at it, the other side of my desk. Collection at times was over 10,000. I've got it whittled back down to about 6,000 now. So I am the David Shank of the Southern Knights. I am that comic book geek, and if I'd had the power, I would have turned myself into a super. Wait, did I? Through the Southern Knights, maybe turn myself into a superhero? Don't know. But no, it just seemed like the next logical evolution. I, collected, and then I got more and more interested in the process, and would buy original art and the color, whatever those sheets were that they used to print on the slick paper, and that's where they colored them, and they actually painted in the colors and then labeled all the colors.
Acetate?
I don't remember what they're called. They have a name for those particular sheets. But anyway, just got more and more deeply into the process, and I enjoyed the art usually more than the story, but then Henry told me or taught me to enjoy the story just as much as the art. So anyway, it just seemed like the next logical thing, with this deep obsession and interest in how comic books
it wasn't
created.
just a fan club. It was going to be a process club.
Yeah, kind of. It wasn't going to be just sitting around and reading. It was going to be, let's do something.
That would be great.
That was original crowdsourcing.
I connect with this story so much because I was also reading comic books from the age of 5. I was born in '67, so I'm older than you on that regard. But I had an advantage over you. See, I was growing up in Sparta, Illinois. I'm waiting to see if the light of realization dawns right here, because
isn't that where they printed everything?
Everything. Yep. If you had a friend whose dad worked there, they were bringing home at the end of the day like day-old donuts.
Oh, God.
Wow.
So yeah, I was getting way more than 30 titles a month.
Wow.
Yard sales were my comic shop. That's where I would go. And I was reading by age 5, and nobody knew it because I just thought everybody could, so I didn't say anything about it. And it wasn't until I tell the story. I was in first grade, and you know how the teacher holds up the big boards with the big words on them, and she reads them real slowly. So I'm like, and I'm all ADHD anyway. So I'm like, watching a bug crawl on the floor or tying my shoe or something. Next thing you know, she's like right there in my face, and she's like, "Would you like to read to the class?" And the only thing in I didn't get sarcasm yet. But the only thing in my head was like, oh God, yes, can we get this on with? So I look up at the board and I'm like, plants create energy through a process called photosynthesis in which they absorb sunlight into cells called chlorophyll. She did not expect that, nor did my parents expect the note sent home that said he's got to go into the next reading level. I can remember. I remember that's what was on the board, and she's like looking at me like, really? And like, yeah, really. I mean, Batman and Robin, they fought Poison Ivy, and that's her whole gig. She said she controls plants, and it's sunlight and all that stuff. So, I'd learned to read off of comic books, and
Absolutely.
Not just read, but scientific concepts. I'm like, yeah, don't ask me about antimatter and antimatter. I can't really get the specifics of it, but don't let them touch. It's bad.
We know that for sure.
Yes.
Unless you reverse the polarity, and then everything's okay.
Everything's okay when you reverse the polarity. Doesn't matter what it is. Like, the dam is bursted and flooded the town. That's okay. We're reversing the polarity of the water. It'll go the other way. Yeah, I totally relate with your story there.
That's pretty cool, though. I'm glad to have a peer in that sense.
And everything was offset printing. So one of the things I used to have in my collection that I can't replace, but I had an Uncle Scrooge cover, the copper engraved cover that was like ka-chunka, 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 ka-chunka. There's only one of those.
Wow.
And they were just stacking them up on the back dock for recycling.
Oh.
But that's why things are valuable today, is because somebody threw a bunch of them away or they got recycled. So.
That reminds me of David's story of Hulk. What is it? Hulk 181? I think it's a Hulk 181.
Yeah, he used to have it.
He had boxes of them, and he used them for kindling. He didn't like Wolverine. and he had boxes of them. And one winter, he used them in the fireplace to
Oh
start
my God.
the fire.
Like, it's cold outside. Let's blow up a car one at a time.
Yeah.
They
Seriously.
burn longer than comic books.
Yeah.
Yes.
I wonder why Dak had so many of those. He wasn't involved in that
Yes,
issue, was he?
actually, and I've been trying my hardest to, because David kept everything. He actually, you know, when you work in the bullpen, a
Mhm.
person's name may be on something, but that doesn't mean that person did it. Everybody was working on deadline. And so, you know, it'd be like somebody sleep and they're like, okay, you snatch that and you work on it. He edited the first appearance of Wolverine. So I've been, I mean, one of the things I do when I go in and don't, before I get overwhelmed and I'm just like, I can't do this anymore, that script has got to be in there. Anything David edited, he kept.
Wow.
So I'm like, it's got to be in there. And that has been my holy grail that I've been looking for.
Mhm.
It'll
That
be in
was-
there paper clip to the first page of artwork.
Yeah. Oh, wouldn't that be awesome? You won't believe some of the stuff I have found. But yeah, it's got to be there because he did edit it. He's not credited as the editor, but he did
Right.
edit.
But he got stacks of them
He had
for his
stacks.
efforts,
Comp
Mhm.
copy.
so he could burn
Oh.
them one day.
Yeah, and he burned them. Yeah,
Talk about $100,000 right up the chimney.
right up the chin.
This reminds me of the story of I want to say it was Gary Groth, but some comic book writer editor guy for a news zine went to to interview Steve Ditko, and he says he's walking into Steve Ditko's studio and Steve is there with an X-Acto knife cutting paper, and what he's using for a backing board were original Spider-Man boards.
Mm.
Because it didn't matter to him. They'd already been
Right.
printed, already been published.
Right.
He
Why do
could
you
say-
need the originals?
And why would you think it was going to ever be worth anything?
Yeah.
Right.
It's just funny books.
Well,
Yeah.
it's funny how it worked out for all of you guys. I mean, you guys have you didn't become DC or Marvel, but you made the one thing well,
Mm.
and well enough that everybody in comics knows that one thing.
Hmm.
So,
Everybody?
you made
Yes, everybody, Henry.
Oh, okay.
there were people, despite popular opinion, there were people born before 2000, and those people who were reading comics
People born in
No.
the 1900s, like us.
like us, old people.
Yes. I admit that periodically, and it's been a few years since I checked, but every now and then I'd like search online for the comic book sales figures from all the companies. And the last time I looked through those things and I was like, God, we were small fry back in the 80s,
Mm.
but if we had those sales right now, we'd be a top 10 comic book.
Mhm.
I was like, what the heck?
What happened to the industry?
Yeah.
It's a
Yeah.
top 10 comic book anyway. Have you read this stuff out now?
Well,
Oh,
I have
yeah.
read the stuff.
Yeah, absolutely, folks. If you want a good comic, want to read a good comic
Good
book again,
comic. Yeah.
hit the link below in this script that's scrolling here. Go to Amazon. If you're watching on YouTube, you're only watching on YouTube. What am I saying? I didn't go everywhere else. The link right there in the description of YouTube will take you to the Critical Blast website, the direct sale thing. You'll save $10 over the Amazon cost on this, and because we're bypassing Amazon, these guys here will actually make more money off that cheaper cost. So go direct, buy direct, give the creators a better share of the pie this way, and tell your friends. Say, hey, check out this book, $89 for 1,100 pages, 34 issues
8
of comics,
38.
plus.
plus the Dragon
We do-
miniseries. The Dragon miniseries makes 38.
You're right. It's 34 issues of Southern Knights, 4 issues of Dragon miniseries placed chronologically into the run, all the backup stories, bonus material, unpublished artwork, never before published artwork, never before published pencils previews of the upcoming book, The Psychic Wars. You're going to see the first 10 pages in pencil as we did when Jennifer sent them to us. We're like, holy cow, more new stuff exists. It's an exciting milestone for me in my publishing career and in my comics fandom. This is I never thought I'd be touching original art of anything, and now I'm just like, passing it over, scanning, passing, scanning. It almost, not quite, almost became repetitive and mundane. But every time I did it, it was like, no, this is really cool artwork.
Well, if it makes you feel any better, I was I haven't seen a lot of that stuff myself, and until I got a look at the scans you did, like the artwork that Willie did. I never saw it. So
I'm going to box it all lovingly up, because fortunately we're also a shipper.
Yes.
So we have all kinds of different size boxes and padding material and all that stuff. I'm going to send it all back, every single piece of it. I'm not keeping anything, I promise. I've got scans of it.
The precious. You must send
I
us.
will, if you tell me to, I will send to Henry and David, or David and Henry, whichever you want. I will send to them whatever you tell me to send separate, if you want me to separate it out. But
Just that one piece to Henry. We still got to sit down and the guys and I got to.
We'll go through a lot.
Yeah.
You were talking about people that love the books, and it always surprises me. Well, it doesn't surprise me as much anymore, but one of the first things that surprised me when I got onto like Facebook and then over on X also. I'm on both of those, folks. You can find me, just search for me. But yes, you can contact me. I won't get upset. But the fans that would pop up every now and then and would ask, hey, are you the Henry Vogel who wrote Southern Nights? I'm like, yes. And it always makes my day when somebody does that. And I wish I could. Can I put something up on the screen?
you absolutely can share whatever you want to share.
How do I do that?
Down at the bottom of the button, there's present.
Yeah. Okay.
And then you can either share a screen or a window or a tab.
Okay. I can share a window.
If you've already got it open, you can absolutely.
Okay. Let me figure out how, you wouldn't think I'd worked in IT for 33 years.
Yeah. Going
Hang
on
on a minute. Let me
going on
go
too many
back.
years here myself.
To piggyback on that with Henry, I found out my lawyer, one of my attorneys, was a huge X Thieves fan, and I happened to have the original artwork and the entire story for the first one. And he saw that and he said, "Oh, I would just," he said, that was my comic, that comic right there. And it was one of those heartwarming moments where he was like, I would love to have that. And he's done a lot for me. He who shall not be named, all of the stuff that I went through, this guy was by my side. So he got that. But I gave
Are you
him.
going to touch on the irony about a lawyer liking something about thieves?
I know, right? But it's so funny that, these stories were important to people. They were great. Oh, look, hi, Devil Flyer. So yeah, it's like you hear from people that this was, this got me through this time, or, I was reading this at this time. And it's amazing to me to know that, this was produced, by my husband and written by these two wonderful guys. And so yeah, people should do themselves a favor, get out and get a good comic.
All right. This stupid thing, it's not cooperating.
It's the stupid thing, Henry.
Yeah. The thing is, I spent 33 years working on Windows systems, and I'm on a Mac.
Yeah.
So
That's
it wants me to open system preferences, so I do, and then
it wants you to do the hokey pokey and turn yourself around.
and it says turn this thing on, and it is on.
Yeah, but then you're going to have to reboot, and you.
Yeah,
and then
that
you get
is
the color
thing.
wheel of doom.
They seem to want me to tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to mail this to you. The reason I'm talking about this is this guy, and I got this literally today. this guy that contacted me on Facebook once we first announced the omnibus was coming, and he's a huge fan. And this guy's got more covers than I do.
I've got the entire series myself right now in hand, and every time I see a Southern Nights at the comic book store, I still pick it up.
Ooh, you do know I have a bazillion copies, right? In boxes.
No, Jennifer, they're rare and valuable.
Rare.
Yes.
And when I see them at the comic shop, it's more like a rescue. It's like, I'm taking you home.
Oh, okay. You're giving them a forever home.
That's right.
But Jennifer, if you find another box of Hulk 181s, I'm sure
I know, right?
Off your hands.
Actually, David bound his.
It's cold here. So.
He bound his along with a bunch of very rare critical comics. And I've had some really scary offers for that one bound volume. They're like, oh, I'd like to have
interesting story. My former LCS guy, Michael Tierney, who also is a contributor to the Overstreet Guide, was at one time, he was a bookbinder by trade before he went into comic book sales. So he was taking runs of comics and binding them into these paperbacks and selling them. They were in his dollar bin, and then they would sit there and languish, but they would sell as a collection. So he took it to to the cons, to the trade shows, and he's like, first of all, am I doing anything wrong here? And they're like, well, you're not mass producing anything. You're taking what you already bought and just repackaging it, which you can do totally fine. He's like, okay, why aren't you guys doing this? There's no money in it. There's absolutely no money in this. And he's like the next year was the year that they started doing trade paperback collections, and they were still so short-sighted on things that the trade paperbacks that first came out were things like Watchmen and Dark Knight Returns. And they said the guy who wrote Dark Knight Returns was the highest paid Batman writer in the 90s. And he didn't write a single Batman story in the 90s because they did not expect that thing to catch on in the market. They gave both those writers first print credit, first print royalties. No second print royalties, no third print royalties. They're still making first printing royalties even today every time somebody buys one of those books.
Nice.
Wow.
So,
wow.
By the way, RJ, I emailed the photo that I was trying to put up. See if you got that.
I got it. Downloading it.
And when he shows this, you guys won't have seen, because like I say, he just sent it to me today. And he's still got other pieces that he has not yet framed and put on the wall. He says he has at least 4 more covers to put up.
Share screen. I've got it. I'm gonna
see if you can. I mean, it's an impressive display. The guy's name is Danny Hoskins, and I cannot quite convince him to call me Henry. But look at that. I mean,
these are originals.
Those are originals. The ones on the bottom are from the Morgan Wars.
Huh.
Wow.
And the ones up top, the one on the left, that's probably, I think, number 18, Southern Nights number 18.
Yeah.
The second one is
like 13, 14.
I think that's actually in the 20s, but I don't remember the exact number.
It's got the old logo though.
Oh, you're right. It is. So yeah, that might be then
My logo.
Yeah.
I like that logo. I like the way the letters connect.
Yeah,
thank you.
We liked it.
It kind of reminds me of oh goodness. They made a comic book out of it. It was originally a show. Logan's Run.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, George Perez was doing that one. And I remember him saying, like, look, folks, the comic book's better than the TV show. Logan's Run was a movie before it was a TV show, and it was a book before it was that.
Mm.
And the one on the far right there with Electrode, that's number 27.
Yeah.
That's my all angsty. I was really actually very proud of that story. So, and still am.
Yeah, this guy's a super fan.
Yeah, seriously.
Yes. I told him, I was like, man, you have more covers than I do. He's like, well, if you ever decide to sell any of yours, call me first.
He was probably the first person to pick up one of the copies that we've sold so far of this.
I certainly hope so. Like you say, definitely a huge fan.
Yeah, this
That's
is
cool.
fantastic stuff.
Good stuff.
I feel like I am fanboy gushing here over this whole thing, because this is how I feel about the whole thing. Devil Flyer picks him up too whenever he sees him lost and lonely in the comic shelves. So yes, when you see a copy of Southern Nights, pick it up, bring it home, and let it remind you that there's a really nice hardcover collection sitting out there that will look great on your shelf. And you can
The
enjoy
comic
the
books used to be fun.
Mhm.
Yes, they did used to be fun, and they still are fun if you go get the right ones, which are the old ones. That the comic books are still fun. It's you used to be young when you were reading them.
That's what it is.
Is that it?
Yes, yeah. We in comics went different directions. We can still go back to those old comics.
Yeah, despite the fact that 40 something years have passed, Kristen's still in her early 20s.
Mm.
Well, yeah.
So am I.
Yes,
Yes.
you are.
I'm sure there is, like, are we talking in what, hexadecimal? That'd be base 16? No. 20 and base 16 is 32. We'd have to go
I'll take
to
32.
Yeah.
I'll take a 32 as well.
I would take a
mean,
32 also.
Won't change me being 57, but I'll take a 32.
I would happily go back to 57.
Well, you're not a day over 57 now, Henry.
No, I'm 10 years over 50.
I thought I was the oldest person here.
No.
I
No,
only
David's
act
older than
well.
you too.
Yeah, I am now a member of the patriarchy. Yes.
Yeah, I
Literally,
remember,
actually.
actually, it wasn't even that long ago. It was just probably a few weeks. David made a comment to me. It was like, we were talking about how old we were, and he was like, man, I remember when I was, when I first met you, I thought you were so old. And now we're like 24, 18. They're the same.
Yeah.
Yeah, now, David looks like he's in his 30s. I mean, you've got that Brendan and Brian Frame gene. Brendan and Brian Frame are a team of artists who worked on several books. They were doing starring Sonia Devereaux when we had them on the show, and I swear they're twins. And we had the writers, and then we had the artists that's sharing a frame here. And I told him, I hesitate to ask you guys questions because it continually looks to me like your mom's going to come in that door with a bologna sandwich and a glass of milk for you guys. Because they looked like they were just teenagers living at home. And they were 50 something.
Yeah.
So
It's fun.
So you're aging well.
Yes.
Thank you. Appreciate
Whatever
that. I would say we all are.
Yeah, I think you both are.
we're
Yeah.
trying. I mean, people don't know that I'm 57 most of the time. They thought I was a little younger. They used to think I was a little older. So I think I'm Gen X. I hit 45 when I was 20, and I stayed there through my 50s. And I just
you don't act old.
No.
no,
That's a big part of it, right there.
a large part of why I'm divorced, I think.
Large part of why you're what?
Why I'm divorced.
Oh, well, yeah, there's that too.
By the way, for people who have not yet noticed, if you look over from the screen point of view over David's right-hand shoulder,
I saw that. I did see
that's
that.
the very first piece of Southern Nights artwork ever drawn by Butch.
That's on a
Right
graphic.
there.
Isn't it on a graphic novel? There's a compo.
Well, yes, we he drew that just to give us something to go with.
Mhm.
And then we ended up using that as the cover for Southern Nights #2. and then Dak used it for the Southern Nights graphic novel that reprinted issues 1 and 2, and then morphed into the early days of the Knights.
Yeah.
So that better be in the book somewhere.
Yeah.
It probably is.
Much better. Unfortunately, that's faded a bit.
Time has had its effect.
Yeah.
Somewhere probably in all of that stuff that you have, Jennifer, there is probably the 4-screen color separations of that piece of artwork.
Oh, I know where that. Yes, there's a file cabinet of all the color separations of every single book David ever printed, and they have their own file cabinet. So Southern Nights.
One of us gets that back. We actually paid for that.
Okay.
We just let David use it, and then it's kind of stayed there.
We're going to have
Right.
Knights Con.
Note to self: find the color separation for that.
We're going to have a DACCon at your storage unit just to make the 4 of us.
Good luck getting in there.
Did you mean DACCon or DigCon?
Both.
I'm not going to say what I thought you said.
But yeah, you know what? I'm going to propose a book, and I don't want to do it. But somebody really needs to write one of those books that's just David's story. Just a biography.
I don't think one person could.
My David?
Your David.
Yes, your David.
Yes.
Well, he already started his memoirs. I have them.
Oh.
Yeah, I've been trying to get a certain Spider-Man person. I don't know if Mr. Salicrup is watching this. If he is, I've been trying to coax him into helping me finish it. He's, a lot of where it ended, he would have been in David's life, and then maybe get some other people towards the latter part, and then me towards the end to finish it. But yeah, they're actually really, really good. It's a funny read. It's light. It's crazy. It is so my husband. He was wild.
He could tell stories that would make you, like just crack up.
Yeah.
I mean, this sounds horrible, but I still remember a group of us were down there at Craft House. Some of them were friends of ours who weren't involved in the comic book, but they knew Dak. We all went down there. We were having a grand old time, and Dak told us about his near fatal motorcycle accident.
Yeah, wow.
That he had when Dwight Zimmerman was down there living with him.
It's Guy Friday. Mm-hmm.
I mean, we're talking about a guy who nearly died in this accident, and Dak had us rolling in laughter because of the way he was describing what was going on.
Mm-hmm. He refused to sign any of the paperwork. His brain is sliding out of the back of his head, by the way, because he's got a triple skull fracture, and his brain is sliding down his spinal column. And he couldn't read, of course. His brain is all jacked up. And he would not sign consent for surgery. He was dying until Dwight got there and would read it to him and tell him what all it said. And he signed it, and they did it. And then I think it was 3 days later, he was, how he was about money. I think it was like 3 days later, he's in the hospital and they won't let him leave. And they're just racking up bills. And so he called, I think it may have been Julia at the time, anyway, he called someone
before her, I think.
It was before her. He called Dwight and somebody else to come get him. He didn't check himself out AMA. He left the hospital in his hospital gown 3 days after brain surgery, got in the car and never went back because he didn't want to pay the bill.
And
wow.
One of the parts in particular that had us rolling is he was talking about, it's like we got all disconnected. And of course, these days, 83 alarms go off if you do that, but not so much back then. And then they're like sneaking out of the room and down the hall, and they go to the stairs and they're sneaking down the stairs and out of the hospital. And
I've seen this movie.
It was, after all of that, he was like, he was not at fault in the accident. Someone else was at fault. And the reason is like he heard from her insurance company, And the guy with the insurance company was like, normally we just, easily pay you triple medical for to take care of everything and your pain and suffering and all that sort of stuff. But she has the cheapest, least amount of coverage that is allowed by the state of Georgia.
It wasn't
And, and it's like, how much is it? And he then compares that to what he's racking up in hospital bills.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when he decided it was time to leave.
Yep. If she's not going to pay for it, I'm not staying.
Fun fact, I think she was the second or third person she had hit. And she hit another one after that. So apparently she was just a really poor driver. But yeah, he was not staying. He was like, nope, not paying this bill. But this is the same guy that got stung by 17 Yellow Jackets and got a fifth of Jack Daniels and drank it. And could have gone into anaphylactic shock, but whatever. He didn't feel good. He was like, I'm tired of this. Drank a fifth of Jack Daniels all the way down, went to sleep after getting stung by 17 Yellow Jackets.
See, that's 8 more than my record. I got stung by 9 on a Boy Scout hike. You're like,
I about gave a very embarrassing yelp of pain here because you both know I've got cats just wandering around here, and every once in a while one of them will pat my leg like, "Hey, pay attention to me," and I'll pick it up. Well, it's a casual day. I'm wearing shorts, and I'm wearing the kind of shorts that you go to the gym in, not like jean button-up shorts. So they got the tie with the long dangling threads down the front.
So you got.
Claws came out. It's like no. So I got lucky. I tucked them inside just now.
I'm sorry.
So you win today's Stoicism Award.
Yes, I held it. Hold the pain. And on that note, I don't think we have any more stories that we can tell.
It's going down a dark path.
I'm sorry. When he said he tucked them inside, I was going.
That crossed my mind too. That means something different these days.
The only
I
tucking
took
I
a
did.
guinea pig to the vet today, and apparently male guinea pigs can do that.
Tuck them inside.
Tuck them inside, yes. That's why it's hard to tell whether one's a male or a female. You have to squeeze their abdomen.
Interesting.
Yep, they pop out.
Okay.
That's more than I ever wanted to know about.
Me too, but I now know a lot about guinea pigs.
So for any guinea pigs watching and hitting the bar scene, and you're thinking about taking that special one home, be aware.
Could be, it could be Lola Lola. You never know.
Yes. Now I want to hear Lola sung by the Chipmunks. Just imagine it's guinea pigs.
You took David out.
No.
Okay, I'm imagining that, and
that's awesome. I could dig that. I could dig that.
There's got to be a way to do that.
Of course there is. There's software.
Yeah, it was all software, wasn't it? I mean,
well, the original guy. Okay, we're going way off top, but the original guy actually recorded himself, and he used his hand to slow down the tape recorder so that it would stretch it out some, and then when it was played at normal speed, it would go faster.
It sounded higher pitched.
He was literally sitting there putting a finger on the turning. Folks, tape recorders are how we used to record things before MP3s existed. And as a matter of fact, before recordable CDs existed. And this predates things like cassettes, which is what we used back in the 80s. I had cassette players in my cars back then, and 8-tracks, which were more 70s. This was a reel-to-reel recorder, which had just tape on a reel.
I had one of those. Oh,
I have one in storage.
And he sang slower, so when the playback would play normal speed, it was speeded up, but it was speeded up to the normal speed with the higher pitch.
Right.
And the first song he did that with, do you know?
No.
Witch Doctor.
No.
The Chipmunks
Huh.
were the backup singers on that song. You know, I told the witch doctor I wasn't. He was the yeah.
Yeah.
What a bing bang. Oh,
I can
wow.
still do that. Yeah. Ooh, ee, ah, 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 ting, tang, walla, walla, bing, bang. Ooh,
Yep.
ee, ah, 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 ting, tang, walla, walla, bing, bang.
bing bang.
Some things stick with you forever,
Okay,
people.
we've gone completely off the rails now.
Off the rails. It's time to end the show because you know what? We can do this again in our next business meeting, and we will. And you folks won't be able to watch it, so you'll miss out on the fun. But guys, thanks for coming together and talking about the history of the Southern Knights. This is something we didn't really talk about in business meetings because we talked about, you know, paper weights and page counts and all the boring stuff.
Mhm.
To bring you guys an exciting book.
Yay.
So
Okay.
hit the link below. Go out and get your copy while you can. You want to get it before Christmas, order it now.
Yeah.
So because it's going to take a while to print it.
It's a heck of a deal. You will be getting like 38 issues for approximately $2.15 per comic book.
Yes.
Plus all
Really
the bonus
nice paper.
content. Plus all the bonus content.
Plus
Right. All the
bonus-
never before seen, unpublished stuff that's yet to come that you're getting a free peek at. So pick it up. But thank you all for coming together. I know it was later for you guys than it is for me. So glad to have you all here. We'll talk again soon.
Thanks for having
Thanks
us.
for having us.
Yeah. Thank you. It's fun.
Everybody in the chat, thank you guys for being here and participating. We don't have a show without you. We're just a podcast falling in the woods otherwise. So we're glad you're here. And while you were here, we just hope you had a blast.
Oh,
Good night.
crap. I was looking at the private chat. I could have been looking up at the there's a whole bunch of comments over there in the chat.
Yeah,
Gosh, guys, I'm
there
sorry.
are people here.
Oh, hey, Crom approves. I'm all in favor of that. Thank you, MCN.
That is the Crom is the oh crap, Pops. I forgot what Crom stood for now. Something of Matt. Never mind.
Well, he's the god that Conan ignores.
Yes, it was. But Crom is the little ogre imp orc thing that is representative of the Madness Network, which is normally where we simulcast. And by golly, if I'd been on top of my game, we would have been simulcasting there. Pops is just going to grab the show and rerun it there anyway. So I'll download it and send it to him if I can. And I'm going to run the trailer. We got to get out.